Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm your host of Tell Me Wine TV, where we try to answer your questions about wine right here on the internet. And today's question was sent in from Neil from Chappaqua, who asked about acid in wine. So what's the question? Acid in wine. Acid is an important part of the wine making process, and it's an important part of the overall wine experience. Acid obviously exists in fruit and in grapes, and so obviously it's going to exist to some degree in wine. And so, and it varies. It varies. Acid is a way of balancing out sugar, and so a winemaker will do certain things to a wine to help control things like sugar and acid. In general, both white and red wine have about the same level of acidity, but from different parts of the world, wine acidity levels vary. So, for example, in cool climates, like in not most of France, but France and Germany and things like that, acidity levels tend to be much higher because the fruit it's cool climate fruit, and so the sugar levels in the fruit are much lower. Whereas in a place like Australia, or I guess parts of California, for example, or Texan wine, or Mexican wine, it's the opposite. The sugar is high and the acid is low. And so in those instances, winemakers can do different things to the wine to help control the levels of acid. To lower acidity, there's something called malolactic fermentation, and that helps to lower acidity. Don't tell me how it happens, I don't know. And if acid is, and then you can also add sugar to wine to control acidity. But really, you look to acid as part of this, the way the wine is presented. And you, like I said, you look for this kind of balance between sugar and acid. And here's a relatively cool climate wine. It's a Sauvignon Blanc from the Bergerac. It's 50% Sauvignon Blanc and 50% Semillon. And this wine, in fact, benefits the French-American School of New York. And I would expect this wine to have a higher level of acidity because, not because it's white, but because it comes from this cool climate. And I think I'll be right. Surprisingly, acid in sweet wine is the highest. That's a surprise. I was surprised by that. Look at this ridiculous glass. This was sent in from a viewer. Looks like a light bulb. Yeah, I'm getting the acidity on my palate. It's got a little bit of residual sugar there, but they're kind of, they're balanced. Not one isn't overpowering the other. So that to me is a nice glass of relatively, simple white wine. Not one component, the acid is not overpowering the sweetness of the wine. With red wines, obviously, you have a kind of a third component, which is tannins, and that's another story altogether. But yeah. Acid in wine is going to be pretty consistent from region to region, and there really is not much difference in terms of acidity levels in red wine versus white wine. So people who say I can't drink white wine because it's too acidic, try it again. I don't know, blind, and see what happens. But thanks, Neil, for sending that question into us, and keep sending them into Tell Me Wine TV.